All right, Matt. If you've ever been involved in a lawsuit, you may have noticed that your settlement possibly varied from another case much like yours. Even when it may be exactly the same in your eyes, perhaps it's not the exact same claim. Well, Andy Crouppen of Brown & Crouppen is here to explain what gets taken into consideration with some of these settlements. And I know people think there's never two cases that are exactly alike, first of all, right?
Right. They're like snowflakes.
Right. And there's always some kind of consideration that the judge may see that you don't consider. And obviously, if you're on one side of the issue, you're going to be biased too. But what do we look at? What kinds of considerations?
You know, there are lots of things that people have no concept of, which is why you call a lawyer in the first place. You know, that's why we're in business. It's not as easy as just calling up the insurance company and saying, hey, my friend down the block got $8,000 when he had the same accident, so could you just send that check on over? There are so many things. As simple as, one of the things that doesn't make sense, and it's hard to wrap your mind around, is the issue of venue, meaning where did the accident take place? You can have an accident in Clayton, and another person can have the exact same accident. All the facts are the same, if that's possible.
Right.
One block over in the city of St. Louis. And because of one being venued in the county, one being venued in the city, the values of those in terms of compensation can be wildly different. So that's one that's sort of counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. Everything's the same. One's a block away. Why would they be valued differently? And it's just a difference in the jury pools and how those you know, sort of end up. The value is loosely based on what happens if we go to trial.
Right.
You know, the first step is let's try to settle this, but how do you value a settlement? It really is ultimately kind of fast forwarding to see what would a jury ultimately give and backing off at a reasonable compromise and trying to come up with a settlement.
And certainly a lawyer who does business, who practices in that venue, as opposed to the other one, is going to be more familiar with the laws and the rules and perhaps the judges. I mean, is that important, what judge you get?
That's also important. Well,
and you guys know, I mean, you have experience with these different judges, so you know how to deal with each one's, if there's no bias. No judge would ever have a bias. But they may have some difference of opinion or a different style that you kind of play to.
Sure. I think the judge can be very important, not necessarily in terms of the value of a case. It can certainly impact how a case proceeds. But you got to remember, most cases get settled. And so most cases never have a lawsuit filed. And so typically there's not even a judge involved. Really, it's more things like, you know, you may think, I had the same back injury when I was rear-ended as the guy down the block. But really, when you get into the medical records, you know, his might have been a little higher vertebra. You know, yours may have required an extra 3 weeks of physical therapy. He may have had steroid injections. So while it seems
may have affected his work and his ability to work more than yours. You may be able to go back to work right away because yours is not a physical job or whatever.
Exactly. A carpenter breaks his left hand versus me breaking my left hand. He's out for 6 weeks. I'm back at work the next morning.
Right.
You know, and so lost wages can play a big part in this as well.
The claims process, and one of the big things that's going on now is obviously the BP oil spill, and how they determine how those claims, they have to, the nightmare in my mind is legitimizing those claims if you're on the end that's writing the check.
It is. It's very difficult. Let's say you have 2 fishing boats. You know, let's hope you've kept good records. You know, how many shrimp did you catch last year? You know, what were your profits? How many shrimp did you catch in the month of August? You know, because all these things are going to come into play, and you're going to have to really be able to pinpoint exactly how much money you lost. You know, in a lot of lawsuits, especially the more complex ones, as you get into bigger dollars or larger injuries, you know, there are economists who spend their lives dedicated to, you know, being hired and working with lawyers and litigants to just determine what lost wages are. How much will it cost for future medical bills if you have a lifelong injury that's going to require it? Think of how difficult it is for most people just to go to the store, run by somewhere else, a friend's house, to pick something up, and get home and guess what time they're going to be home,
Right.
just so they can be on time.
Right.
Now imagine you're faced with lifelong injuries, and you've got to now project over the course of 50 years exactly how much you're going to spend in medical bills.
Man.
You know, you need somebody
You need
who
good record keeping.
You need good record keeping. You need a professional with an advanced education to really figure
Like
these
you
things
said,
out.
we could do a whole hour on this.
We
very
could. It gets
easily.
very complex.
Andy, thanks so much. If you have a legal question for Brown and Crouppen, email